Welcome back. This is a review for Fruits Basket Season 2, Episode 7 slash Episode 32. And so this episode as well is definitely mainly Yuki focused, but we do get some little things with Kyo as well as Hiro as well. Now, so last episode was interesting because they combined three chapters into one episode, and this episode is just one chapter covering the entire episode. But I don't think they added anything to it. I just can't vaguely remember. I don't think they actually added anything to this episode. It's literally just this one chapter, which I think it works out this way because this chapter in particular does need to be one full episode, uh, just because of the kind of the content of it. Um, and the what's interesting is that they kind of they started they started the episode where at the middle of the chapters, but so like you start the episode with you seeing Yuki running into Akito and him having his little inner monologue of going, there are things that I wished for and wanted, but and Akito kind of always told me that you know don't don't delude yourself into thinking those things will happen or that they're real. But I wish that I knew that if I kept fighting, that I hoped that maybe one day that there would be someone that actually needed me and so on. But you get that interesting dialogue right at the beginning, which is because in the manga that actually happens about halfway through the chapter. But I was surprised when the episode started and we started off with that gut punch, and then you go back to the beginning with starting off with Hiro's phone call. But I think it really works this way because it kind of really melds the episode together and, as the overall arc of or the overall story of this episode, especially since it's Yuki focused and especially with how it ends, it really frames it really well. So then we get the beginning with probably the one of the cutest things that happens to Hiro is the fact that his mom turns out he gives her um, his mom calls him to tell her that she's pregnant, and it's cute, it's adorable, and especially all the things that will happen later with it. It's oh my gosh, especially with Hiro's development. But you get this entire hilarious scene to where it's like everyone's kind of keeps calling it Hiro's baby, and Hiro's like, it's not my baby, it's my mom's, it's gonna be my little sister, it's not my baby. But it's hilarious. And then we also get the interesting fact, we learn a little bit kind of more of how the whole Zodiac curse works a little bit more here, as well as just the fact that Hiro's mom, out of all the just Zodiac parents, Hiro has like the best Zodiac mom. Because Momiji's talking about how it'd be sad if Hiro's sibling wound up being a girl, because then he wouldn't be able to hold her. But I mean, at least there's no possibility of another Zodiac being born, because, and then as Sahara explains that all 12, well 13 of the Zodiac members have been born. So as long as they're still alive, there's not going to be any new ones born. So that means that there's no chance that Hiro's baby, or not Hiro's baby, but you know what I mean. Hiro's new sibling is going to be a Zodiac animal. Which would mean just like what, and that won't make Hiro's mom sad or anything like that. But and then he counters that with well, technically speaking, I doubt it would have affected her anyway, because we find out that because as we know from Momiji, when his backstory, we told that most parents, as we've seen, they're either overprotective or they reject their children. However, in Hiro's case, his mom was, when she had him, she was like, I love goats, and that was it. That's how it worked. And so and which is probably explains, considering that she treated him just like normal, which is probably why Hiro, out of all the Zodiac kids, is the least traumatized kid out of all of them. Out of all the Soma children, he's the least traumatized. That's because he had the most, I'd say, normal upbringing. But see, you get the hilarity of them talking about that, as well as the watermelon splitting. And it's just fun. It's hilarious. But then you also get the little snippet where Tor's kind of getting excited. And she says, "Oh, I did this before," and she's about to say with her mom, but then she thinks back, "Oh man, maybe I've been insensitive to talking about my mom with how their parents are." And so she like tries to change the topic, to which Hiro notices, and he's like, "Oh shoot, what I did say really did affect her. I wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying to, I didn't mean to actually do that. I was just asking. I just thought I was asking a question." Um, and of course, notices that Hiro says this, and probably also noticed that what Toru was trying to say. Then you kind of skip over to after the watermelon splitting, and Yuki and Haru are cleaning up the place, and as they're kind of cleaning up, Yuki notices that Momiji, Hiro, and Kisa are inside, and that they're asleep, kind of on the floor, and then he watches as Toru comes up and very lovingly puts a blanket over all three of them, um, and then even kind of pats Momiji's head. Um, and he just kind of watches it, and as he's staring there, and he's thinking to himself, there's, again, kind of going back to the monologue, his inner dialogue that he was having earlier in the episode, and from what we've had previously, where he's saying, there were things of which I in that dark room that Akito would come in, and he would tell me, the don't delude yourselves, and into thinking that any of this stuff is real or is ever going to happen, and including the things of which I desired most. And he's looking at Toru taking care of the younger kids, younger Somas, as he's thinking this. And then of course Kyo shows up, and he's like, "Well, I'm just gonna go out, and I'm gonna go for a walk." Um, to which Haru's like, "Hey, if this is an ordeal, you gotta, it's an ordeal, Yuki. You gotta get over it. Well, get over it, but if you can come out of it, if you can, this is an ordeal, this is something you have to go through, and if you can, in particular, they're talking about the box, Yuki's, closed box in the lid. If he can open it and he can actually deal with the emotions and what he's feeling, then he'll, at the end of it, he'll come out stronger." Um, and then you get, of course, Kyo, uh, Yuki running into Akito, and kind of you get to see that a little bit. But then you also get Kyo talking with Toru, and him, saying, did Hiro say something to you? You kind of seem off, and then her being like, "Oh, it's nothing. I just don't want to hurt you guys." And Kyo's like, "No, come on, just tell me. You're not gonna hurt us. You're not gonna hurt me. Just come on, tell me what's wrong." And Toru then says, asks him about his parents, and he's like, "Oh, I thought I already told you, but I'm estranged from my dad, my mom," and he cuts off midway, saying that his something happened to his mom, and he said his mom died in an accident. Um, and which you can kind of assume by how he was originally going to say what happened to her, that you can kind of assume that his mom probably committed suicide. Um, the But then that's when Kyo kind of pieces it together and goes, "Oh, okay, so we were talking about the watermelons. You were getting excited because you did watermelon splitting with your mom." And he's like, "Listen, our parents and your mom have nothing to do with each other. Just talk. It's okay. You can talk to us. You don't have to try to, hide what you're wanting to talk about." And so, of course, she talks about what happened when she was little, and she did watermelon split with her mom. And it's just a really sweet overall moment of them kind of innocent and getting along and kind of bonding, and that Kyo really is able to let Toru kind of talk and be herself, and um, really kind of express what she wants to express without feeling like she is not able, not is kind of without kind of having to walk on eggshells. And then of course you get the more dramatic thing of with Hattori arriving as well, and there's a funny moment with him and Shigure. But with Akito showing up, and of course Akito runs into Yuki, and then of course, and as Akito says later, that he made sure to make sure Yuki wasn't you know that Yuki wasn't deluding himself into believing certain things, um, and of course laughing maniacally as Akito does, and saying, "Oh, Yuki's stupid. He should just come back to me. It's gonna be better for him if he just comes back to me." Um, and pretty much it kind of almost in a lot of ways splits up the party in that like they were originally all having fun, it was great, and then of course Kito showed up, and then it was like, okay, well, Shigeru's like, okay, well, Kyo and Toru, you guys can stay here. I'm just gonna bring the main family to go visit Akito. We shouldn't hopefully be gone too long. And so that's pretty much what happens, where Haru and Momiji, Kisa and Hiro are all walking over to visit Akito, and of course they're all kind of distraught and going, I hope Kisa's worried because she doesn't want Akito to hurt Toru, but then everyone else is like, Momiji's like, I want to get back to going and having fun with Toru. I don't want to be around Akito right now. I just want to go and I hope this doesn't last too long. And then you get Akito, being Akito and talking and be like, "I love you," when he shows up, and it's like, yeah, it's you know that's not real. You know that Akito's just faking it, or it's more of a manipulative thing. But then you also get the little mini interesting conversation between Hattori and Shigure, where Shigure tries to get Hattori to reprimand him and being like, "Hey, aren't you upset that I got Akito to come here?" And Hattori's like, "Well, I mean, at least you're trying to change something. I'm just kind of trying to keep it as the status quo, but I mean, I can't really reprimand you for trying to at least change things because at least you're trying to do something. Unlike me, who I just kind of stand by in on the sidelines and I just don't really do anything." Um, and so you had that little interesting conversation, as well as the one we had prior to that earlier with Akito's, with Hattori being like, you shouldn't have brought Akito here, and Shigeru's like, well, I mean, we're as twisted as we're already pretty twisted, so bringing Akito here will at least maybe shake things up, and maybe I can get closer to what my goal is, which you still don't know quite what that is yet. But then we jump forward to pretty much where it's nighttime and it's still Kyo and Toru at the house, and they're like, hey, Toru kind of starting to get worried about everyone, and she starts to get worried about Yuki because she hasn't seen him in a good while. So she decides to go out, and she runs in, and eventually she runs into Yuki, and this is where you get kind of the big climax to everything, where she's they're talking, and she's asking Yuki how he is and everything, and he's like, I'm good, and he's like, I opened up the lid, and he's like, oh, okay, and he's like, it's all thanks to Akito that I was able to do that, and which is surprising. Go, okay, because you think it would be because of Toru that he'd be able to open up the lid, but it's actually Akito that actually is who actually helped him to open up the lid. And it's kind of this mix of him thinking some things, like he doesn't tell her about the hat, but he thinks about, when Akito pretty much told me that I was unnecessary, that I was unneeded in this world, that, and I shouldn't delude myself into believing that I was. And then because of that just one chance day that I got to meet you and help you out, it was the first time that I ever felt that I was needed in the world, and it gave me just even a smidgen of hope that maybe I really was someone important. Not someone important, but someone that was really needed in this world, that there were people who actually would need me later on in life. And so it gave me even a small bit of courage to keep going forward, even though, all around me, the rest of the time when I was with Akito was just dark and bleak. Um, and and of course, while he says this, Toru's like, well, if you think you'd be happy, if you're, she's like, she's thinking to herself, you open the lid, but like, you don't look happy about it. You look kind of sad, like you look downtrodden about it. And he's like, well, yeah, because of course, the thing of which he had realized was that, um, which you don't quite find out yet, but that he says because it's like the sky up above, or you're like the sky up above, and that you're so far away, but yet you're so dear to me. And it's such a beautiful little scene, and again, you don't quite know what Yuki has kind of realized or come to accept about himself quite yet, but you know that it is something, um, and that he is getting there, and you'll eventually find out what it is. Not too far from now. Maybe, yeah, maybe probably in the second half of this season, you'll probably find out what it is. But it's yeah, but it's a very emotionally but very beautiful episode, because this is really the start. I mean, he had like little baby steps prior to this, but this is really the start of Yuki really starting to change. Like from now on, even starting in the next episode, you're really going to start seeing Yuki change in different sort of ways. More so than he has ever before. And so it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. But it's a great episode. It's so good. Alright, but I mean, that's really about it. So, thanks for watching, and bye for now.